1, 2, 3, funk it.
Hi, I'm Maddie. Welcome back to my channel, and for today's video I'm going to be discussing and rating the movies that I have watched thus far in quarantine. I thought this would be a fun video to give you an idea of some movies that you could be watching and also just to be for a bit. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on with the video. I'm not going to be mentioning these in any particular order, but for each movie I'm going to be, of course, saying the title and my rating, but also a little bit about the movie so you can get a sense of whether or not it's something you think you would like or not. All of these, with the exception of one or two of them, were suggestions to me. So please keep in mind this is not my personal movie taste. My personal movie recommendations would be Marvel, DC, and Harry Potter, and that's about it. So these are all very out of my normal realm of movie watching. The first one is 10 Things I Hate About You, and I give this movie a solid 10 out of 10. It is one of my favorites that I have watched thus far, and basically it is about a girl who is very intimidating to her peers because she is extremely smart, she is a strong feminist, and it's about her and her sister's like dating life and social scene. Because of that, I think it was very empowering and pretty funny, so I personally enjoyed it. The second movie is The Princess Diaries, and I give this a 9 out of 10. I thought that it was really good, pretty funny. I don't know, it just, nothing about it like sent it up to a 10 out of 10 for me, but definitely a really solid choice and I would recommend. It is about a girl who is in high school and nobody really seems to pay attention to her, and then her grandma hits her up and says, hey, by the way, you're a princess of this small European country, and her whole life gets transformed by that, as one could imagine. The third one is Pretty Woman. I give this a 4 out of 10, and if you're around my age, I just wouldn't recommend it because I really couldn't connect or get like the message of the movie. I watched it long enough to understand like where it was going, so maybe if you are a bit older and in your mid-20s, then you would find this a more entertaining movie. I personally did not enjoy it. It's basically about this woman who is a hooker, and some guy picks her up as his hooker, and then he gets her out of the hooker life. But again, I didn't watch it all the way through. I could tell that's where it was going and knew that's what it was about, but I just couldn't relate to it like others on the list. The fourth one is Devil Wears Prada. I really hope I'm saying that right, and I give that movie a 10 out of 10 as well. I thought that it was pretty funny and had a good message behind it, and it was a good choice. It's basically about this woman who wants to be a journalist in New York and her family does not really approve of it. She gets to be the assistant of a really high-level figure in the fashion industry. She works on the top-notch fashion magazine, and then at the end she's like able to get her dream job and stuff like that because of it. The fifth movie is Breakfast Club, and I give it a 6 out of 10. This is one that I wanted to watch on my own because I'd heard that it was really good, and I guess I just had higher expectations for it. I just found it boring, if we're being frank. It's about a bunch of high school kids from different groups in high school that have to spend Saturday detention together. There were a few funny moments in it, but just overall as a whole, I thought it was kind of dull. Number 6 is Miss Congeniality, and this is another 10 out of 10. I thought that this movie was hilarious. Basically, the main character is an FBI agent, and she is having trouble at her job because she is one of the only females, if not the only female, that has her position, and they have this mission to go to the Miss America pageant because there's going to be some kind of attack, and she is the agent that's nominated to be put in the pageant, so they have access to everything. And of course, as you can imagine, a lot of funny stuff happens. The only knock I have on this one, if anything, is the ending is extremely cheesy. That's the thing that just about the whole rom-com genre, I feel like. They are, for the most part, there are some that are terrible, For the most part, they are good until the last about 15 minutes, and then the ending is so cheesy that it kind of ruins the whole movie and makes it terrible. But up until the last 15 minutes, you can enjoy it. Number 7 is Parent Trap. I give it an 8 out of 10 because it was good, but a little too on the emotional side for me. I am not a fan of emotional movies, and this one towards the end was. This movie is about twins that were separated at birth. One lives in Europe, one lives in California. They meet in a camp, and then they devise this plan to where the one from Europe will go live in California and the one from California will go live in Europe. And then while they're apart, they come up with the idea to get their parents back together. Number 8 is Clueless, which I feel like is another classic, and I give it a 10 out of 10. It was really funny. The main character is very popular in her high school, but people can't really see past her popularity. And a new girl comes in and they sort of take her under her wing and transform her into one of them. And it's kind of about the social interactions that happen between that, which are pretty funny. And then there's a stepbrother that's involved, and I don't really want to say it too much because I don't really want to spoil the endings, but since it's a rom-com, I'm sure you can guess what happens. Like I said, the endings are always so cheesy. Number 9 is The Proposal, which again, 10 out of 10. This movie was absolutely hilarious. I was laughing out loud, especially at the scene in the woods with the dancing.
Oh, these kids go down to the window, to the wall. Drop down.
Hilarious. With this movie, the main female lead character is from Canada and she has an expired visa, so she is going to lose her job and be deported back to Canada unless if she becomes an American citizen, which she would have to go back to Canada to do that legally. But then she brings in the main male lead and says, oh, but we're getting married, and then they're having to fake their engagement and all of the wedding preparations.
Go ahead.
Please cut off, Siri.
You can turn me off in settings.
Next is Uptown Girls, which I give an 8 out of 10 because again, I liked it, but it was just too emotional for my tastes. The main character in this movie is living in an apartment in New York, and she is an orphan, but her parents are really famous, and you can kind of just get the vibe at the beginning that she kind of has a whole bunch of money and she's set for life. But then she finds out that she's being evicted from her apartment and has to move out, and it kind of chronicles her going through several different jobs, and then she finally becomes the sitter of this little girl who you saw earlier on in the movie, and it's about how they form a connection, and the ending is just really sad, and that's what kind of brought the rating down for me, but it's still good choice. Next is The Help, which I give a 9 out of 10. This movie was so good. It takes place in the 1960s in the South when segregation and things like that were going on, and the main character, Skeeter, is writing a novel about the black slaves in the South and how they raised the children, and she gets the stories directly from several maids that she becomes friends with, and this is a very taboo perspective to be taking on things back then. Number 12 is She's the Man. I give She's the Man an 8 out of 10. Again, good solid choice, and this is about a girl who really enjoys playing soccer, but her school cuts the women's soccer team. So she and her friends are like, okay, we'll just try out for the boys, and her coach said, not so fast. So then she pretends to be her brother for 2 weeks and goes to her brother's school, which is a boarding school, and she pretends to be a guy to play on their soccer team. And it's kind of funny, you know, because she's a girl but nobody else does. They think she's a guy, and watching just her interactions with the people trying to convince them and act like a guy is funny. And of course, still a rom-com, so I'm sure you can tell where that goes. Next is Captain America: The First Avenger. Of course, this was my choice, so I actually watched the Captain America movies in reverse order. 10 out of 10, loved it. Anything Marvel, Chef's Kiss, I plan to watch all the Marvel movies that I haven't watched after I get through my friends' suggestions so they can stop ragging me about not watching their movies. Next is How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I give it a 7 out of 10. I thought that it was funny, but just so cheesy. I know I was saying that about all of these rom-coms, but it was just really cheesy. I feel like if it was less cheesy, it would have been better. In this movie, the main female lead works for a magazine, and her job is to write a how-to column. And her friend recently went through a breakup, so she decided that she was going to fake date someone for 10 days and do all these awful things that her friend had done, and see, you know, like this is why you don't do them, because you'll lose them in literally a week and a half. And then the guy that she chooses to fake date works for a diamond company that says if he can get a girl to fall in love with him by this big banquet, then he can pitch his ideas for the diamond sale campaign. And coincidentally, they meet and pick each other for this. So you have one trying really hard for this to work out and one trying really hard for this not to work out. And rom-com. Can see where it ends. The next movie is Licensed to Wed. So I give it a 6 out of 10 because, again, just super cheesy. In this movie, the only thing that kept it afloat and not a total like below a 5 out of 10 for me was the Reverend's humor in this movie was impeccable. That was the only part that was good. This couple is going to get married. Wife really wants to get married at this church in her hometown, but in order to get married there, the Reverend says that they have to go through this course to be licensed to wed, hence Licensed to Wed. So they're going through this course, and basically the Reverend is doing all of these things to try and like drive them apart, and the guy is totally picking up on it, but since this is the wife's home church, she's like, no, there's no way, da 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 da. But again, it's a rom-com, so ending. Then the last movie that I will be reviewing for y'all is Booksmart, and I give it a 7 out of 10 because I thought that it was pretty funny but just unnecessarily raunchy in areas. I thought it was just really funny. There were lots of humorous moments in it. It's about two girls who are about to graduate high school, and all they have done all the way throughout high school is focus on their studies, and they never really allowed themselves to have fun and cut loose, and they decide they're going to change that because they learned out that their classmates who did have fun and cut loose also made it to the same points in life and colleges that they got into. So like, okay, maybe there's not any harm in having a little fun, and lots of things transpire. That was my review of the 16 movies I have watched so far in quarantine. If you guys want me to make a part 2, because I'm sure I'll be watching more movies, let me know in the comments because I would love to, and be sure to give it a thumbs up while you're down there, and subscribe to join the hashtag M&M Squad. Be sure to click the bell too, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye!